The State Department confirms that Homeland Security is working to stop issuing visas to 4 countries that refuse to accept or unreasonably delay the return of its nationals. This is about national security here. Though not confirmed, there are reports that the countries in play are Cambodia, Eritrea, Guinea, and Sierra Leone. With me now is the host of the documentary series, War Stories. He is retired Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. Good to see you, Colonel.
Good to be with you, Liz.
What do you think of the administration's plan to halt travel from these countries refusing to help Homeland Security?
Well, look, if other countries don't cooperate with our extradition or our security policies, sanctions are certainly appropriate. Jimmy Carter imposed visa sanctions on Iran after our embassy was sacked in 1979. Ronald Reagan imposed visa and many other sanctions on Libya in 1981. It's a bit more complicated today because visa sanctions involve 2 U.S. government agencies now, State Department and DHS. And as we all know, State and DHS don't always agree, and the dispute inevitably will end up on the president's desk. But I'm just guessing, Liz, given that John Kelly was DHS secretary before becoming White House chief of staff, there will be visa sanctions imposed on countries who don't cooperate.
Now, Colonel, let's get to the strategy for Afghanistan.
Sure.
We were just wondering, do you agree with the plan? I mean, we've had guests on who say adding more troops is more of the same, not a game changer, and that Afghanistan is so corrupt it loses entire cities to handfuls of ISIS terrorists and pickup trucks. I mean, 100,000 troops at one point, now 8,400. What are your thoughts?
Look, I think, first of all, it was a surprising speech. I watched it right here and then was on with Hannity right afterwards. I was surprised that he acknowledged that he was changing his mind, and that was just part of a very surprising speech. Here's another one. That speech did not leak, Liz. It was a policy speech, not military strategy. And I'm glad he's committing to win in Afghanistan. Certainly that was attributed to the kind of people that he's got advising him now. But look, he set objectives. He said there's going to be an honorable outcome. There's not going to be a hasty withdrawal. We're not going to have a withdrawal time frame. It's conditions based. And what he said was, I'm going to give the latitude to the field commanders, just as we've done now with ISIS in Iraq and Syria. Look, you got to remember, his Secretary of Defense actually used the word annihilation when he was talking to the cadets at West Point back in May. Annihilation is what we're having to do. We haven't been able to do that under the rules of engagement that were set by the previous administration. I don't know what the appropriate number was or is, but I'll tell you this, they're going to be able to kill terrorists, and that's what he said he was going to do. Correct me if I'm wrong, Colonel. Under the Obama administration, the rules of engagement were that the U.S. troops can't assist directly Afghan troops if they're being attacked by terrorists, and I think now they can, right? Well, yeah, and it goes beyond that. You're going to see forward observers and forward air controllers and joint tactical air controllers from the Air Force out there on the ground, just like you do right today in Syria. They're going to see special operations. I am hoping that there's latitude, and one of the great things about this is he didn't say all the things we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to do it. The reality is we've lost 2,258 Americans killed in action. We've had 20,257 wounded in action. We spent almost $1 trillion in Afghanistan, and this year it's going to be $50 billion. I'm hoping that the 17th commander in 16 years, John Nicholson, is going to buy into the idea of something just beyond a surge. You can't turn over the troops every 6 or 7 months. And so there ought to be some latitude for new ideas, like a hybrid of covert operations with foreign advisors embedded with Afghan troops. They live with them, they fight with them, they don't go away in 6 months. The foreign and Afghan pilots in every airstrike, which is what was proposed at Camp David last weekend, those kinds of civilian contractors, forward air controllers and joint JTACs, are going to live with Afghan units, fly with Afghan pilots. I think you could have if you will, a hybrid of what was proposed, and I hope the military is open to it. Thank you, Colonel North, and thank you for your service to our country. Be sure to catch War Stories Saturdays and Sundays right here on the Fox Business Network.